The webinar for today is titled College Support via Text Message, and our presenter is Mr. Don Yu. Don Yu is the director of Better Make Room, and he supports former First Lady Michelle Obama's Reach Higher initiative to inspire all students in America to take charge of their future by completing their education past high school, whether at a professional training program, a community college, or a four-year college or university. Better Make Room seeks to celebrate education, change the national conversation, and reach students directly where they are and give them a space to create content while also navigating the college-going process. With partners in the business, philanthropic, media, and education realm, this campaign will stretch across the country to inspire students and give them the tools they need to reach higher for college. Don, you now have the floor.
Jen, thank you so much. And for everybody who's on the webinar, I'm so glad you could join today. I'm going to go through our up next, which is Better Make Room's evidence-based texting program intervention today. But, for those of you who are not familiar with Reach Higher and Better Make Room just generally, I'm going to talk very briefly about that. As you, hopefully, most of you probably know, Mrs. Obama back in April 2014 launched Reach Higher, which was her college access and completion initiative aimed at helping the U.S. achieve President Obama's goal, a goal he announced back in 2009, his aspiration that the United States lead the world again in college completion rates by the year 2020. And Mrs. Obama, it's kind of a personal issue for Mrs. Obama because, as most of you probably know, she's also, her parents did not go to college, so she's a first-generation college student herself. She faced quite a bit of barriers on her way to getting to Princeton. She, in fact, had some folks at her school telling her that the term reach higher actually comes from someone telling her that she was reaching too high by aiming to go to Princeton. That actually just got a young Michelle Robinson more fired up to get into school. But even once Mrs. Obama got to Princeton, she realized how challenging it was, especially, she just felt so different than everyone else who was at Princeton. She has told this story many, many times to first generation college students herself about giving advice about, getting into college is a big step, but it's not enough. And also all the challenges she faced at Princeton and the advice that she provides to young people that enabled her to succeed as well. So she launched Better Make Room in October 2015. That's the campaign, 2016. That's the campaign that I run. Mrs. Obama felt like Reach Higher was doing a great job. It was doing a great job of doing outreach, bringing together school counselors from around the country together. She also felt like she wanted to do a campaign, though, too, that was aimed directly at students. She really enjoys just talking to students, like she calls it yoga for herself. And she wanted think of other ways besides, at the time, using things like White House press releases to reach students, because she said, students don't read those. It's important that we get onto Snapchat and Instagram and also text students. So that's kind of where the idea about our text-based intervention actually comes from. And it was from Mrs. Obama's directive to our team that we meet students where they are and try to speak their language, i.e. that does mean meet them on their mobile cell phones. So that's a little bit of background about why Up Next came into being at first. The next slide here that you see here is some of the things that Up Next actually, messaging that Up Next provides to students. So here are some examples of some messages. These aren't exactly the exact text messages, but basically some of the content area that we message students about. So the first text message you see there is about, we message students about how to find, identify colleges that are a good fit for you. So we do message students about that. We drive them to resources like the College Scorecard. We help students register and take college entrance exams like the ACT and the SAT. And then we spend quite a bit of time on making sure that students complete their FAFSA as well. Those are some of the content areas. Here on this slide, you'll see here, these are some of the folks that we message as well. We mostly focus on high school seniors. Again, we guide them through their college search, help them complete the FAFSA, help them apply to college as well. To a lesser extent, we also message current college students, although that is a smaller fraction. And then last year during our pilot year, we also had quite a few parents and school counselors who also signed up for our text messages because they wanted to see what was going out to their children or to their students, or they wanted these notifications from us as well, just in case it was helpful reminders for them as well. But those are the target. Those are the groups that we message. And you'll see on this slide here about kinds of support. So again, it's like tips on finding schools that are great and affordable. Again, that's like College Scorecard material. We provide lots of reminders about completing the FAFSA, registering, taking the SAT, ACT, and then just lots of also encouragement, inspirational messages, quotations from Mrs. Obama, that sort of stuff. And here in this slide, you see here, these are some actual text messages, some screenshots from the text messages from last year. So, and again, these are just actual screenshots. These are, and you'll see on the screenshot on the left, it's about FAFSA completion, walking a student through that. The middle one is about developing a college list, schools to apply to. And then on the far side, we also do help folks also for those who are paying back their federal student loans. We actually do help people take advantage of things like income-based repayment plans, et cetera. It's important to note, these are screenshots from last year's pilot program. Last year, we enrolled about 100,000 students through our campaign. I would say probably about 85 to 90% of them were high school seniors, or the parents of or school counselors working at high schools. A smaller, and the rest of the remainder, probably like 7-8% were current college students who needed help renewing their FAFSA, and then probably around 1 or 2% were folks who wanted help paying off their federal student loans. I bring up last year in these screenshots too, because it's going to look a little bit different this year. And some of you may have already texted in because that information is on our website and we've been promoting it on social media and by email. But it's important that the text messages this year will look different. You'll see in these screenshots here that there's an automated robotic kind of feel to them. You'll see on the left-hand side, text yes, no, text early, text next. And the same kind of feel on the screenshot to the right. But one thing that I learned from last year was that the automated feel of it, although it was easier to implement, I felt like a lot of the students felt like they were just texting with a robot. It was not very engaging to them. Our engagement rate was still very good. It was still about 50%. Close to 50%, which means about 1 in 2 students responding to our text messages. But I felt like we could have done better. In previous texting experiments about the same size, the engagement rate was about half, about 25%. So we still did really well. I think having Mrs. Obama on our side, she tweeted about and posted on Instagram for us last year about Up Next. I think that helped a lot, and it helped with our engagement with students a lot. But again, I really felt like we could do better this year. So we actually switched to a different system. It won't have that robotic feel. In fact, every single text message that we're sending out this year will be sent by actually a real person. So students will not be texting with a robot, and there will be no automation at all. We will be having some preloaded scripts into the messages, so it's easier for our team to deliver the message to students based upon, previous experiments, what we anticipate questions students to ask, things like that. However, again, every single message will be sent by a real person. The heavy lifting will be done by a number of college students at George Washington University. I also have about 25 or so experts, college coaches, who will be volunteering, about an hour or two a week with Up Next to answer tough questions from students this year. So that's our team. You may have seen, actually, ASCA sent out a call for volunteers to support our texting campaign over here at Reach Higher and Better Make Room. And we did pick up quite a few volunteers. If any of you are interested who are on the call and would like to see how our texting campaign works, we train you, create a user account for you, see how this kind of texting program works. I'd welcome your participation on it. Going to the next slide, here's where I did mention to you before, again, like we do have, it's not robotic, it's not automated. These are real people texting from the other end. And here are some of the partners that some folks from, we have, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 coaches from College Forward, 6 or 7 from College Possible, 5 maybe from Inside Track. I think we have 3 from College Advising Corps. And then on the right side, you see there, that is actually an actual screenshot of a conversation between a student and a college coach. And here's this is a very good example of some of the work our coaches do, our counselors do. We had probably several dozen times last year when we were messaging students about the FAFSA. We had undocumented students text back saying they were undocumented and they weren't eligible for federal student aid. And as you can see, the coach on the left has started to help this student find scholarships in New York, where they might be able to find scholarships that where they're eligible to apply even as an undocumented student. So that's an example of some kinds of the support that we provide to students. I think the most compelling reason to have your students enroll, if you're all high school counselors on this call, on the webinar, is that these texts are proven to work. As many of you know, Lindsay Page, Laura Owen, Ben Kassaman, for the last couple of years have experimented with texting programs. And basically under the theory that if you meet students where they are, speak their language, and reduce the complexity of the college going process for high school seniors, you can get more of them into college. And as you see from this bar graph here, for texting experiments that were about the same size, same scope as Up Next, the FAFSA completion rate for students that received the text in the orange, 12% more likely to complete the FAFSA than students that did not receive text. Also, college enrollment immediately after high school, students that received text are 9% more likely to matriculate into college. As many of you know, this is battling that phenomenon called summer melt, where most low-income minority first-generation college students have done all the work to get into college, have received an offer of admission, have accepted it, but many of them, unfortunately, during the summer months, while they are in between the supports of their high school because they've graduated, but prior to enrolling in a post-secondary institution, many of them, unfortunately, never show up to college in the fall. But you see that sending text in the summer actually prevents some of that summer melt from occurring. And then finally, you see a pretty dramatic increase actually in sophomore persistence. College freshmen were 14% more likely to persist into their sophomore year if they received the text, as opposed to students that did not. So the important to note too that the design of Up Next is the same as the ones in these previous texting experiments. Professor Castleman from the University of Virginia, who wrote a book about his texting experiments called the 160 character solution, designed up next for us. So we are using texts that have been proven to work in the past, and we're doing some innovation with them too, based upon his expert advice. And this year, if you had students enroll in last year's program, again, and they were very automated, robotic. This year, the text will feel much more conversational, open-ended questions, things like that. So hoping to get students more engaged in our texting program. Okay, this slide here is where, here's how you can enroll. So as you may have seen in that picture earlier where Mrs. Obama was holding an assigned text college at 44044, we have a different enrollment process this year. And this year, high school seniors can enroll by just texting their first and last name to 240-623-8319. Again, that's their first and last name to 240-623-8319. If they do not even want to provide their first and last name, but just want to receive the text anyway, they can do that. I only do that for data evaluation purposes to help me evaluate the success of our program. But again, if you have people who are worried about providing their first and last name to this phone number, they do not have to. They will get their text anyway. And then current college students, this is less relevant for people on the call, but if there are current college students, or maybe you keep in touch with your seniors who graduated last year and would like to provide them some support, again, first and last name to 240-623-2789. Again, that's 240-623-2789. On the right-hand side, you see a screenshot of the enrollment process last year. It does not look like that. One of the benefits to manually sending the text also is that I no longer have to comply with federal anti-spam laws, which required this standard text messaging rates may apply kind of disclaimer, legal stuff. I felt like that was a turnoff for students last year. I got a lot of students saying, I have to pay for this. They do not have to pay for this, but federal law required me to send that boilerplate last year because the system was automated. So actually another benefit to the manual texting. Again, I just want to make crystal clear, this thing is 100% for free. It is paid by philanthropy funders that I've courted in recent months, and totally free. And you will not see this legal disclaimer. It doesn't exist this year because, again, every single text is sent manually. And then here's I have also some marketing materials as well, if it would be helpful for anybody. That's designed by my creative team, our creative team called the Black Sheep Agency. And just kind of little handy dandy flyers, things that could be posted, printed up, posted around the school, a high school, about our program, and simple directions for high school seniors to enroll. Again, this is super easy. There isn't anything else that you would have to do besides encouraging your students to enroll. We take it from there, So again, this is something that has been tested many, many times by Professor Castleman and is shown to work. Again, this thing is not intended to replace an actual counselor. It cannot do that. It was never intended to do that. But I do know the odds you all face on this phone call. For example, I know if you're in California, you're a high school counselor in California, I know you have 800, 900 students that you have to work with every year. Those are impossible odds. I mean, just by the numbers, how many times can you have a meaningful conversation with a high school senior about going to college? This thing is only a tool, something to supplement you, something that will automatically send out reminders to your high school seniors, an extra nudge about completing the FAFSA. Another time, maybe we can save you answering a couple of questions here and there if the students have questions about, finding a college that's a good fit for me, things like that. Never intended to replace a real person, but again, an extra tool just to provide some support. And if you have additional questions for me or want to have a deeper and more in-depth conversation with me, my phone number, my email is there on this slide. It's don@civicnation.org. That's don@civicnation.org. I welcome you to email me if you have any questions about our program. Okay, so I ran through the slides, and if anybody has any questions on this call, I'm more than happy to answer any question. Jen, I don't know if that's something you control from your end or not. Jen, do you happen to be there? Jen, I'm not sure if I lost you there, but folks who are on the call, if you want to text your question in, I can see them now. So